Okay, please can you see my screen? Hello? All right, thank you. Okay, so yesterday we discussed about um, just a brief introduction to Flutter yesterday. So today we'll continue with that on our class. All right. So today is session two, applications and widgets in Flutter. Right, so the learning objective, I'll just explain how to create simple Flutter application in Android Studio. For those that are just joining today for the first time, I'm using Android Studio for this class. So I'm going to explain the widgets in Flutter and then explain the different types of widgets and then different types of layouts, available. So the session goal is that the Flutter application can be created through a variety of means, like we know. So in these sessions, I'm creating it using Android Studio again. I'm still saying it. So if you're using Visual Studio, fine, there's no problem. You can use Visual Studio, but all we are aiming at the same thing. So Flutter application can be created with different code editors, but the best way to do this is through Android Studio because even when you are using Visual Studio Code. You still need Android Studio to run your emulator. But if you are not using your physical device with you, so you still need uh, Android Studio to install your emulator and then you run your code. So, but if you are using Android Studio at once, so you don't need to open Visual Studio again. So through Android Studio, you can also run it through your emulators, which make it more seamless, right? So to create a Flutter application, one is to open your Android Studio, and I'm doing that now. I'm opening my Android Studio. So once Android Studio is opened, click on File, New Flutter. We did this yesterday for those that are just joining today. Just to know those that are joining today, let me just go back to our screen. How many are just joining for the first time? Like today is the first time you are joining. Just give me a thumbs up. Like today is your first time. Give me a thumbs up. All right. Thank you. Thank you. So, do we all have Android Studio installed on our system? All right. Thank you. Okay. So, no need to go through the process of installing Android Studio. Thank you. Thank you. So, from here, right? So, once you click on New and then select Android Studio, select Flutter application. And then to do this, click on Flutter application on the left side panel and so on. So here we already created our first application. Please, oh, my screen is not too tiny. I'm doing this so that everything can be seen in one screen. Right. So just to demonstrate, click on File, go to New, then you see New Flutter application, right? And then you will see this box. um, pop up, then you can follow the process. So since all of us know how to do this, I think we are good to go. Please, you can always speak anytime you have questions. Just speak up, or you can drop a message in the chat, right? In the call chat, so that so that you can always can answer your question as I'm taking the class. So I want to answer the question as I'm taking the class. If you have anything you want to ask, just unmute your mic and ask any question. Thank you. All right. So these are just the steps. Once you open this box, right, to create a new application, new Flutter application, you see new Flutter next, and in next you'll be welcome with this one, the project name, the project location, description, project type, organization, and so on. So here from our book, we can see you configure the application with the following details. So we already choose, we did, I think, day 5, day 1 demo, something like that from our project here. We call it day 1 demo. So that was what we call this, our application we created yesterday. So project location and then the description is just about a little description about your project, and that's all, nothing much than that. And boom, you are good to go. Okay, so once you are done, you'll be welcome with this screen. This is called auto-generated components, right? So whenever Flutter application is created, few files and folders will be generated automatically, right? So these are the files that will automatically will be generated, right? So if you see one, we have the project name. We come to our file. You can see these are the project name here. You can see my mouse. So project name is day 1 demo, right? That is the name of our project. That's what you'll be welcome with. And next thing you see is the Android and the iOS and the lib, right? So here, auto-generated source code for Android and iOS app, right? So here, most times you will not be working on this folder, this iOS folder and this Android folder. So except you just want to do some specific configuration specifically for Android or specifically for iOS, then you need to come here. Maybe you want to get your package name, you want to put your app on maybe Firebase, you want to generate some packages and so on, then you can come to this folder. But believe me, you won't be working here, working on these folders regularly. Then we have this lib, right? This is the lib folder that you are seeing here in this screen. Contains the main folder containing that code, written using Flutter framework. So this folder, this lib folder, is where all your dat code, right? Your dat code to run your Flutter application. This is where you are going to be creating them. So you can always create a subfolder. You can right click, you can right click and then add a new directory. You can call it anything, just say test. So, but everything will be under this lib folder. So inside here, you can create as many files as possible. So as we progress, you will understand how to use this lib folder. But for now, we only have just one file, which is the main file, which is auto-generated. Once you create your Flutter application, you will have this main, right? And this main is very important. As we proceed, we understand why we have this main file. And then we have some other files as well. These are another auto-generated files when the project is created. So one by one, we'll go through those files to understand what they do. Please, like I said, if you have any question, just unmute your mic and ask immediately so that you might not forget, or just to keep flowing. Your question might also help other people in the class. Hope you are seeing my screen. Hello, are you still seeing my screen? Are we there? All right, thank you. All right, so in Flutter project, we have some folders that we need to understand, just like you saw here, this folder that, or just these folders that you are seeing here. So we need to understand what some of them does. I've explained some, like the Android. This folder contains Android specific files, right? For like your manifest files, your Gradle files, and so on. So if you want to add some dependencies to your applications, this is where you will need to come and modify these Gradle files. And your manifest files contains all the information about your project name, your package name, and some other permissions that you might be giving to your application, right? So where you put them is in your manifest files. Same thing goes to your iOS folder. So it contains iOS specific files, right? Like port files, like icons, and so on. So in that folder, we have your icons and port file specifically for iOS, right? So like I said, these two folders, Android and iOS, you might not really be playing with them like that, but sometimes you will need to come there and play with it. We have the lib folder as well, or we call it the main, right? Just like you see the lib folder slash main, you see this lib, and inside the lib we have just one file, main.dat, right? So this folder contains the file at the starting of the app and usually has one sample code by default, just like you are seeing here, main, and then one sample code. This is just a sample code, like you are seeing by default. Let me start my emulator so that it can start running on the background. Then we have the packages, right? So the packages, if you come down here, you see these are the packages folders you are looking at. On the left side, you are seeing my mouse. So all these are the packages folders I'm going to explain to you right now. So it contains information regarding packages that are being used in your project. The name is already self explanatory. Packages, package just contain packages that you use. Packages could also be like some libraries, like some implementation, like some dependencies that you attach to your project. And then .ima folder, this file is basically metadata for IntelliJ IDE to know how to structure the project and how each folder will be used. This is not for you. This is not for you to modify. You don't have to do anything in this file at all. So another important file that you might also be using at the long run is the popspec.yaml. Please, this popspec.yaml is very important. This file contains all dependencies, execute Flutter, get packages, package name to get all required packages. So for instance, let's say you are trying to use, let's say Google font, right? You want to use Google font, and Google font could be something like maybe Gmail icon, Twitter icon, Instagram icon, or Instagram buttons, those kind of packages, right? So you will need to come to this prospect.yaml and then install those packages so that you'll be able to use those Google uh, fonts and all those Google icons that you want to use. So this is where you put all your dependencies. For instance, you want to get access to your image. This is where you will need to uh, do those configuration and get access to your images from anywhere. So this prospect.yaml is a folder that you always modify according to your need, according to your project requirement, according to what you want to do. So you'll be coming here regularly, and then the lib folder. This lib folder is another folder you always come. Then we have the prospect.log, which log files and let the user test the package against latest compatible versions of its dependency. This you will not also be playing with this. I can tell you that you will not always play with this. And then the README, of course, for those of us that are familiar with GitHub projects, the README is just to use to write some README, basic guide that provide developers with some complete illustration about any GitHub project. If you are coming from GitHub, you have a little experience of GitHub, you understand the README file, right? So how is the code structure in the main.dat? So main.dat is the main file for Flutter application. It is generated automatically while creating a Flutter application, right? So from this code snippet, you can see that this is your main file. If you come back to code, all right, so I will need to run this. So if you come here, don't mind the app, it was just a test app. You see this is the void main and run. So this main is always at the starting point of every application, right? So this is the starting point. It's automatically generated for you once you create your Flutter project. And without this main, believe me, your code will not without this main. So this main is very, very important. You see this line of code? This line of code is very, very important to run your application. So then we have some other code. Don't worry, this code, you understand how this code works. So if I keep scrolling down, let me scroll down from our material that I'm using. Right. So it's just a code snippet that when I was preparing this material for you, and then I gave this code snippet. So let me scroll down to the bottom. Yeah, I think we are at the bottom already. All right, so we have this at the bottom of the screen. If you see this code, believe me, I didn't write this code myself. This code are auto-generated by Flutter. So when you first create this Flutter application, you will see that this code will be automatically generated for you, right? So I did not write any code here. So I'm running this application right now. And to run your application, you can run it in two ways. For me, I'm using emulator so that you can all see it. If not, I would have used my physical device. So if you plug your physical device right now to your system, for those using Windows, for Windows, if you plug your physical device and need to enable developers mode on your phone, don't forget to enable developers mode on your phone, because if you don't enable developers mode on your phone, you will not be able to see your phone in Android Studio. So you need to enable your phone. So for me, my emulator is Pixel 2 API. That is the emulator I'm currently using. So if you are using emulator, fine, you can choose your emulator down. If you are using your physical device, you will always see your device in any of these places and you can choose it. And to run your application, you click on the green arrow. Here you see run, then you run your application. I doubt, I'm sure most of us here have run some Flutter application before. So, but for those that don't know how to run it, that is the process. If you have any question, you can ask. You can ask me. And sometimes the first time might take time to run. I'm just running it for the first time, so it might take a little bit of time to come up. Also, depending on the speed of your system. So you can see that the application is running right now. I'm just trying to show you the demo, like the sample project that Flutter create for us. Okay, so please just keep looking at my screen while it's loading. I know emulator is very heavy. emulator is very heavy, so sometimes it might take a little bit of time, to run. All right, so this is our first Flutter application created for us automatically by Flutter itself, right? So here is just like a button that does increment, and just to increment this number for us. When you click it, the number just keep incrementing. This is just the code snippet that does that for us. So you will understand this. I don't want to rush. One thing about us is that we always curious to write code. We want to write code. We want to write code. We want to do amazing things. Of course, we need to start from little beginning, right? We need to start from the foundation. But if I just jump into, okay, let's create a method called increment and do this, and you don't understand what is stateless, you don't understand what is stateful, you don't understand what is set state, you might have some issue, right? So I'm starting it from the beginning for you so that you will not have challenges at the long run. You will understand every bit, everything we do, you will understand. I want you to be good with Flutter, to understand everything that we are writing here. So I don't want to jump any process. So please, for those that already know these things, be patient with me. Just keep following the class until we get to your position, right? So just be patient with me, and be patient with those that don't know all this beginning, right? So we are just starting from scratch. So this is the first project you are going to see, and what it does is to increment this number for us. You just keep incrementing, incrementing, and incrementing. So to run your project, first a device should be connected, either connect to mobile phone or create emulator using Android Studio. Once the device is connected, the project can be executed. Then you click on the run button, which is the green play button, right? This button you are seeing here, this is the run button, run, right? So you can see my mouse, see this run. You can come here, click on this, and then you are good to go. So that is for Android Studio. If you are using Visual Studio Code, the button placement might might be a little bit different. So if you are using Visual Studio Code, some things might just be different. Then the console will appear after a few minutes. The application uh, will just be loaded, right? So this is the console, and this is what you will likely see. Let me open my console for you. Right, so this is my console, and you can see all the number of time I've clicked this button, right? Count 14, 6, 12, 11. These are just to like a log, right? I'm getting a log of the activity that happened while I was clicking on this button. So you can see if I click again, another log will be given to me. So when things goes wrong in your code, when you are trying to run something, this is where the log here is always where you see any error. So pay attention to this place. Most times, whenever you are running your code, always open your log to see what is going on, to test and see if there's any failure. You see what is failing and what is not failing. All right, so same screen that you are seeing here, you know, I was just putting the snippet for you to see. So once you run your project, you will also see same screen. So let's now introduce you to widget, because now you're seeing your code is running. Okay, what is going on? What is this button? What is this text? I'm seeing something called Flutter demo homepage. What does it mean? So now let me explain some of the things you are seeing on this screen, and what are they called and why is it there. Now, everything in Flutter is widget. Everything in Flutter is widget. Now, when I say widget, widget is English word that encompasses a lot of components. For instance, your menu bar. is widget, color is widget, your text is a widget, right? Your button is a widget. So when you combine these widgets together, it forms a tree, and that tree forms what you see on every mobile screen. You see the in the mobile screen, you always see the top bar, the app bar, followed by then the body, and then followed by some other text on the screen. Everything there is called widget, right? So if a user wants to add anything anywhere and anyhow, then widgets are useful. So the main purpose is to create an application from widgets and describe how the application view should look with the current configuration and state. So when any changes is made on the code, the widget remakes its description by figuring out the difference between previous widget and the current widget to settle in the minimum changes for rendering in the application user interface. So I'm just reading these things to you, but let me just show you, right? Let's just make a little change. For instance, if you come to our home, this is our home page, we see in our app bar, right? In the title, in our application bar here, we have Flutter demo page. So let's say Flutter Bootcamp, right? Bootcamp Day 2. So if I hot reload this, you can see it has changed, right? Flutter Boot Camp Day 2. Our app bar have changed, right? Then if you come to color, I'm just testing some of this widget to you. You can see our color here is blue. If I change this color to let's say orange, right? And then I hot reload the application, you can see all our applications have turned to orange color. So that is the power of widgets that you know. That's what widget does, right? Widget could be a color, could be a text, it could be an icon that you see on the screen. So that is the beauty of Flutter. Like I said yesterday in our class, that hot reload here is what makes these things appear very fast. I don't need to rerun the whole application again before things can work. I just need to, with Control S with my keyboard, I'll just hot reload and boom, everything just appears on the screen. So even this text, if you come to our text here, you can do some styling to it if you want to, but this text is called a widget. You can add color to it if you want to make turn the blue to black. You can turn the blue to black, make it bold, add some font family, add some styling to this. You have pushed the button this many times, right? So if you want to beautify it, fine, you can go ahead and do so many things with it, right? So but for now, I don't want to go into that. Gradually we'll go into all those things. If not, our time will be more than what we are supposed to spend. So look at this screen. It depicts the categories of Flutter widgets. We have widget groups, we have platform specific, we have platform independent, and basic widgets. So let me quickly break this down to you. The widget group, the platform specific, and the platform independent. So let's start with one by one. Types of widgets in Flutter, right? So just like you see in that picture, right? Flutter widget groups can be grouped into two categories. One is platform specific. So under platform specific, one majorly develops application for Android and iOS, and each platform has their own guidelines, of course. Don't forget we are building for iOS and for Android. And the way things appear in Android is not the same way things appear in iOS, in Apple phone, right? So things are always different in terms of appearance. So that is why we always have this platform specific widget, right? So for Android, it is called material design, right? Material design. If you have done some Android application, if you are coming from Java background and you have written some code in Java with Android, you know what they call material design, specifically for Android. That's what material design does. So material design guidelines and Android specific widget are called material widgets in Flutter. Right? Material design for Android, but material widgets, that is for Flutter, right? So some of these material widgets, we can see the tab bar, the list view, raise button, floating action button, flat button, just like you are seeing here. Here we are using floating action button, right? This is floating action button. So if you come to top of the screen, here you can see material.dat. So we are using material design. Now this is Android specific widgets that I'm using here. If I'm using for Apple or for iOS, then it will be Cupertino, right? So I'm also getting there. But whatever you use, it will still render, you still achieve the same thing. Just that the look on iOS and in Android will be a little bit, differ. So we have the pop-up menu and the button bar and so on. So for iOS, it is human interface guidelines and iOS specific widget called Cupertino widget. It is called the Cupertino widget. So here we see the Cupertino time picker, tab bar, Cupertino dialog action. So these things are just platform specific, but you all we achieve the same thing. We all achieve the same thing. Then we have what we call the independent basic widgets, right? There are some independent basic widgets. Under platform independent widgets, right? Flutter provides a large number of basic widgets to create simple and complex UI, right? Just like you are seeing here, this is just a simple UI with the app bar, and then with the body, you have just one, like two text, only two text, one up and the one button, and we have our floating action button. Of course, this is just a simple UI, right? Nothing much is on the screen. It's very simple to create. So what we have complex UI, let's say you are building an e-commerce application, right? So there will be a lot of complex widgets, a lot of complex buttons on the screen, things, you know, packed together to do a complex UI. So for now, we are just running a simple UI. So the independent platform, this one, they are independent on their own. They don't belong to either iOS or they belongs to Android. No, they, these are independent, like they are basics. One, we have the text. Text is text, your string. Your string is string. It doesn't matter if we are building for iOS, we are building for Android, we are building for anything. Text is text. And we have the image and we have the icon. So there's no disparity here. There's no the independency. There's no dependency here. Sorry, they're not depending on their platform. No. So text, image, and icon are platform independent basic widget. Then we have something in Flutter, right? I need you to also pay attention to. It's called state maintenance widget. State maintenance widget are those in which the widget are classified according to state. When they say something is state just mean the way I left something. Should it be a change? Like you drop something on the table and you come back, the thing is still there, no changes. Or you drop something on the table and you come back, somebody has shifted to one side of the table. That is state. When they say it changes in something, it's called like a state, or without changes, either with changes or without changes, it is state. Right. So there's something in Flutter we call state management. So with this screen, I will need to explain this so that you understand. But you see, the widget is the top of the tree, and then we have the stateless and we have the stateful. Right. So in the stateless, we have the asset image and we have the text. Now, in the stateless, things are fixed, they are permanent, things don't get changed. In the stateful, things get changed. And why you are seeing this scrollable and checkbox in stateful widget is because when you are scrolling, things are changing. things are coming up from the screen. Let's say you're scrolling from top to the bottom, things just keep moving. And checkbox, of course, you can change the state of the checkbox from okay, yes, no, no, yes. But if you look at text is just there looking at you. It's just there looking at you on the screen. And then we have the asset image. Of course, image is just there. It's looking at you. Image doesn't got change. Text doesn't change on the screen. Just like what you are seeing. It's not changing, but as I'm scrolling now, you can see that things are changing on the screen. Some text are coming up. Some text are coming up. So it means that this is a stateful behavior. As you're scrollable, I'm scrolling something. It's a stateful behavior, meaning it can change. It's like strings. In strings, we have what we call mutable and immutable, right? So you can change a string state from mute to immutable, right? So same thing goes here. Stateful widgets can change and they are dynamic. Things are dynamic, but stateless, they are fixed, permanent. They are fixed and they are just there. Nothing changes. So stateless widgets are fixed and its behavior does not change. Of course, icon and text. Right? Your icon and text, your passport, like your picture, right? If you give me your picture, I mean just looking at your picture, it is you. You cannot change, it's just you. Right? These are fixed things. And then the stateful widget, of course, these are widgets with user interface, and this widget has one variable name state. Now, in this variable, current state of the widget is stored. The current behavior of that widget is stored, right? So when you say state, you can also say something like a behavior, right? Just to break it down for understanding the current behavior of the widget. Right? So stateful widget have one method called set state, which is important to call when one wants to change uh, any widget. So here we see um, we saw set state here, right? You see, we use set state here, right? So this call the set state tells the Flutter framework that something has changed in this state, which causes it to rerun the build method below. Right now, just to demonstrate, when you click on the plus icon, you can see 32, 33, 34, 35. Now, why this is changing is because of this set state. If I remove this line of code, let me just cut this and then place it here and then remove this guy and control S. That's hot reload. You can see when I click the plus, nothing is happening. When I click the plus, nothing is happening because it's not setting the state, it's not changing. Like set state means you want to change something, I want something to change. That is why we use set state. You can see the same code, but just I only remove the set state from this code, and you can see that it's not changing anymore on the screen. So that is the power of that is the power of set state, right? So you need to understand how these things works. So you can see now everything is working back 53, 54, 55, just because of uh, this set state, right? So I just did that to demonstrate to you why we need set state, right? So um, all right, so let's continue. This is the next screen here. We see that because this next code snippet shows a new widget is created by extending stateless widget. It is to be noted that stateless widget requires only a single method build to be executed in its derived class. Only one method needs to be built, and then just to explain this widget you are seeing here. Now we have this our my home page build method, just one, and then we have the scaffold. Now this home page calls the scaffold, right? And then it build again, which is two, and then the scaffold then calls the upper, and the scaffold then calls the center, and then center calls the text. Now let me just break this guy down for you. Coming back to our project here, you see we have this stateless, right? This is our stateless widget. And in our stateless widget, we have this my home, right? This is it, my home. Please try to follow my mouse. This is my home. My home is here. And then we have this. This is the name of our class, right? This is just the name of our class. And then this called this, and this my home page class calls this method, right? Our increment method, and then inside our increment method, we have our sorry, inside my homepage class, we have what we call the build here, and then we have the scaffold, right? So this scaffold is the body. This white page you are seeing on this screen, the white background here, is this scaffold, right? So inside this scaffold, we have the app bar, right? So the scaffold calls the app bar, and the app bar contains the text, the title that you are seeing here, Flutter Bootcamp Day 2. And then inside the scaffold also called the body, and then the center. And the center has what we call the child. And the child has the column, this you understand, and then it called the text, right? So here here the text now is displayed, and then we have what we call the floating action button. So if you look at the hierarchy of how this thing is moving, from the main, my app, from my app talks to, calls my home page, my home page calls the scaffold, and the scaffold call your app bar, and the app bar calls the center, and the center call the text. So that is the explanatory of this widget tree you are seeing here, right? Widget tree, my own page, scaffold, and then app bar. Let me need to change location so that I can power up my system. All right, so I need to power up my system. Okay. So that is the explanatory you're seeing. My home page, scaffold, app bar, center, and then we have the text. So something called layout, right? So in Flutter, a widget may contain one or more widgets, of course. When we say one or more widgets, for instance, we see our column. You see this column? Column is a widget. But now this column contains two texts, right? One text is to display you have pushed the button this many times. Another text is to display this count, the number you are seeing here, 55, right? So now you can now see that it contains another text again. So meaning some widgets may contain one or more widgets. So Flutter comes up with huge number of widgets along with layout features to merge multiple widgets into single one. So for example, the center widget helps to bring the child widget to the center. And some of the widgets that work with layout widgets are the container, the column, the row, the stack, and the center. So we've seen um, column. This is column, and then we've seen the center, right? So this is the center widget. Sorry, from the body we can see the center. Now, what the center does is just to bring this text. You can see my screen that the text and the number is in the middle, right? If you remove this center widget, for instance, to remove the center widget, Body. Okay, I will need to remove center and child because center comes with child. I need to remove child, right? So you can see that the text have come to the left side of the screen, right? You have pushed the button this many times. It's now at the left side of the screen. So here also we have max alignment dot center, right? This centers centers in our number, right? So that is what some widget does just to make things work, right? So you can see it has come back again to the center, right? So we have some other types of layouts. We have layout. So layout widget are classified into two types, and then we have the single child layout and the multiple child layout. So the single child layout, we have the align aspect, the baseline, the center, the constraint box, the container, the expanded. So all these you see it in experiment, the size box, the padding, and then we have the multi-child layout. Okay, multi-child layout is the one you've seen now, which is we have the column, right? The column is here. Column will able to take more other children inside of it, and then we have grid view, index tag, list body, list view. Of course, list view, some of us are familiar with list view already. Just to list items like a stack, but you list them vertically. That's what the list view does, right? So we have the row. Like row also is like column, but everything will be in a row. Like it will be from left to right, right? While column is top to bottom, right? Those are just the difference between column and a row. Top to bottom is column, left to right is your row, and your stack, of course, when you stack things together. These are all layout that can also carry multiple layers. So just to summarize, right, what we've done, right, the prospect.yaml contains all information about dependencies, right, and then my app is the core widget of the application, just like you see here. Right, you see, when Flutter created this application for us, you can see my app. So this is my app, and this is where it ended. From here to here is my app, right? So inside this my app, we bring in another class. So these things we will understand them as we progress in the class. This is another class, and we bring this class, just this name inside this. So my app class doesn't have anything much than to just hold you just hold my home page, and then we now have the color of our project, right? Color of our project, you can change it, you can turn it to any color that you want, right? So, and then it holds the title of our project, right? And then layout widget are classified into two types: simple child layout widget and so on. Then we have the state management widget. State management widgets are classified into two types: stateful and stateless widgets. Please, can you mute your mic, Fahad? All right. So please, do we have any question? Hello. Do we have any question? All right. Thank you. So I think next class we will continue with the Flutter. Don't forget, this is just a boot camp. There's no magic in learning. You can't learn everything in 5 days. Believe me, you can't learn Flutter development in 5 days. So it's just a boot camp to give you an overview and some of the basic things about Flutter. And after the boot camp, if you want to proceed, then you can register for the full class. But with this bootcamp, believe me, you will have a lot of knowledge that you can even start building your own mobile application. Believe me, right? So just that we might not deal with maybe API integration and so on. But with this bootcamp, you will definitely learn a lot. So we'll see you tomorrow for the next class. Thank you guys.